Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.375%. APR 4.65%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 2.13% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hello, everyone, and hope I didn't step on that. Welcome to Damn You Hollywood. I'm Robert Winfrey. I am your host. Tonight we are reviewing Disney's latest cash grab. Their live-action remake. I mean, they're all cash grabs, fundamentally speaking. I suppose I shouldn't even use that with a drastically negative connotation, given I'm a free market capitalist by nature. The latest live-action remake of a previously established property, the Disney live-action version of Aladdin, which came out this last weekend and has done quite well for itself. I don't want to get too far into the money yet, but it's doing all right. Just a little bit all right. You know, Disney only on track for the type of year that sets records for studios that will never be broken, kind of thing. Tonight joining me, as usual, the mandated reporter enjoying a different level of mortification right now, Mark Radulich. How you doing?
I don't think Black Sheep is the one that did Scenario. I gotta look it up now. I feel like I gave you bad information. Not that you would have known Black Sheep from A Tribe Called Quest, from Onyx to Del the Funky Homo Sapien, but it's bothering me.
I mean, I could describe all of those things to you as they actually are, but not necessarily in the musical context that you mean them.
Do you know any of those groups, by the way?
Nope.
Okay, didn't think so. It was A Tribe Called Quest. Okay. So earlier when I said Black Sheep, I meant A Tribe Called Quest.
That new information changes nothing about the previous interaction, but I'm glad you feel better about it.
I do. I can now go to sleep tonight, because this would have kept me up all night despite the CPAP.
Good to know. The answer to your CPAP problem, the new problem that your CPAP cannot solve is you misremembering musical groups. Good to know.
Yes, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm alive.
Terrific.
And joining us again in full-blown near duck and cover status from the great state of Missouri. I say that mostly facetiously. I've lived in Missouri, and yeesh. Alexis Haina is back with us, along with, I assume we'll get an Eddie cameo at some point. Alexis, how you doing?
Doing good. Eddie and I have just come out from the basement, braving the tornadoes and the storms to join you guys tonight. I hope you know that we are sacrificing quite a lot.
You're risking quite a lot. You haven't sacrificed anything yet.
Well,
but the night is young.
Tell that to Eddie. He's a nervous little corgi, and his stomach is making noises. So I think he's scared about the storms because he's not eating his food. So he's sacrificing. So honor the sacrificing corgi.
I mean, sure, it's a corgi. I have no problem with that. All right. Again, tonight on the docket is Aladdin, and I'm torn a little bit on this one because, and I suppose I should bring this up with you, Mark, because you and I have talked about all but one, I believe, of these live-action remakes. We didn't do an actual review for Maleficent.
Sure we did.
But, no, we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
No, you and Pat talked about it. I didn't see it, and we didn't actually review it as such.
Those were in the early days when this didn't even have a name.
Maleficent actually predates this show.
Yeah. Well, what got this started was me and Pat screaming about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 at each other, and you had to kind of stand in between us. And then we just kind of went from there, and I believe at some point we did talk about Maleficent.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I know, again, it was discussed, but it was not reviewed proper as, again. But we've talked about the rest of them. Mm-hmm. And their batting average is, what, about 350, 400?
Something like that. You want me to pull out the list here and we can do a quick suck, didn't suck?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll stop looking for it in just a moment, and I will go ahead and bring up the list.
Can you disagree? All suck?
No.
Not at all.
The Beast sign.
I'm sorry.
Be careful, Mark. There's a lot of people who hate the remake.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry. All that remake was make me want to watch the original. There are certain ones I see that they stand on their own grounds, and there are some I go, dear sweet God, you're not even trying. Beauty and the Beast was one. It just made me want to go watch the classic.
There's things about, I said this at the time, there's things about the remake, the live-action remake, that I prefer. There's touches they added that I thought enhanced the overall presentation, but I don't disagree with the general sentiment. And that sentiment is actually exactly my response to Aladdin, coincidentally.
Where are we starting this list? Because
where do we want to start? I mean, do we want to start with like Snow White and the Huntsman? Because
was that Disney?
Tell you what,
I'd have to double check.
Let's start with Maleficent because I feel like that's a good.
I think yeah.
The three before that are Alice in Wonderland, which was a Tim Burton thing, and I don't. And while that is it was a Disney movie, I don't think it was part of this. I don't think it was part of this slate where they were like, let's just remake everything. So
yeah, that's fair.
I agree. The live action Alice in Wonderland was such a different story than the classic animated film. I don't think you'd call it a remake.
And on the same ground, they also both suck.
Yeah, and on the grounds, let's make sure we don't include Through the Looking Glass, which the less said about that, the better. Okay,
for the record, I saw Alice in Wonderland on recommendations after it had its theatrical run. I rented it or something, and I walked away going, everyone who recommended this to me is a moron. And then Through the Looking Glass, I was forced to watch while donating plasma, which was the only way you were going to get me to watch that movie, is to stick a needle in my arm and tell me you can't move, we're paying you. And that movie had nothing going for it apart from 3 lines of quasi-clever dialogue. It had nothing.
And let me guess, all of them were from Sacha Baron Cohen?
Pretty much. I think the only one that really got me was you can't win a race against time. Because, okay, that's kind of clever. Because they're actually racing. But yeah, they all came from him.
Yeah, and I hate to say he actually was the best character. It's hilarious because I remember watching going, this is not an actual character from the Lewis Carroll stories, but he's written like he would be, and there's a level of genius to that.
Yeah. His character was real. The only thing I say about that movie that's positive, his character was pretty solid.
Agreed.
Other than that, hey, let's turn the Red Queen sympathetic.
Ugh.
That's a good, that's a good decision. Anyway, so starting with Maleficent, Mark.
Okay. So I think Maleficent, thumbs in the middle. Yeah. This is let's keep it simple. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. I think Maleficent was a strong thumbs in the middle. Yeah. Cinderella, thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
It was ornate. It was beautiful to watch. It was great performances. I thought some of the takes. I thought they expanded on the characters enough to make it worthwhile. Definitely thumbs up. Jungle Book, thumbs up.
Thumbs down.
Really?
We talked about this, Mark.
I don't remember what the problem was.
Okay, break the tie, Alexis. Live-action Jungle Book.
Firstly, should we just tell our audience to come back next week when we'll actually get around to talking about Aladdin? Because I think we're going to get derailed a bit.
No, we'll go faster. Let's just break the tie.
Sorry, Jungle Book was thumbs in the middle to me. I actually do like that they included more of the classic Rudyard Kipling story. For the record, there is a Chuck Jones animated Jungle Book short called Mowgli's Brothers, which I highly recommend to anyone who wants to see a really good adaptation of that story. It was perfect. And again, it was a short. I think it's like maybe half an hour, maybe.
I'll have to give that a look then. Okay, so
It's really good.
We landed in the middle essentially on Jungle Book. Fair enough. Next,
Beauty and the Beast was a thumbs up.
That was a thumbs down for me.
Again,
Why?
I know there.
It was so. I'm sorry. It was so bland.
Let's refight every single one of these. Going back, here we go. The 101 Dalmatians, 1996. No, go ahead.
Okay, no, we can do that one because there's
no
reason. There is no reason a movie starring Glenn Close, Jeff Daniels. Why can I not remember that actor's name all of a sudden? House.
The guy Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie, thank you. There's no reason a movie with that level of talent should have sucked that much.
Moving on. Christopher Robin. We didn't think Christopher Robin was bad. We just didn't know who the hell they were making this for.
I mean, it's one of those that's a technical thumbs up, but like it doesn't really have an audience.
Okay, Christopher Robin for me, I give it a sort of thumbs up because I did enjoy it when I saw it. And I'm not going to lie, the scene when Ewan McGregor breaks down and hugs Pooh and everything, I remember watching and going, I want my teddy bear here so I can hug it. But it's a movie that does not have any rewatch value. So It's like, I'm glad I saw it, but I'm really not, pushing to watch it again.
Yeah, neither were my kids.
It's not for your kids. It's really not.
Really not.
Hey, I was just glad they kept Jim Cummings as the voice of Tigger and Pooh. If they had cast someone else for that, I was going to riot.
I darn near rioted when they didn't get Peter Cullen back for Eeyore.
Dumbo, thumbs in the basement.
Yeah, down.
I avoided seeing it. Sorry.
No. You were the smart one.
Yeah, sorry. I basically said no when I saw one of my favorite guys on Twitter refer to this movie as having midichlorian magic.
And that brings us to Aladdin. But before we go forward, let me tell you.
You forgot. Hold on, you forgot Pete's Dragon.
They didn't include it on the list, so it doesn't count.
It's on the list, Mark.
Wow, how forgettable was that?
They didn't include it because they either didn't see it or forgot it. I suffered. We're going to talk it. We're going to mention it.
It doesn't count. It's not. It's. Wait a minute. Hang on. Let me read this now. You stop it. Let me explain. This list does not include remakes of live-action animation hybrids such as Pete's Dragon. Ha! Fuck you. It doesn't count.
Okay, so they came up with a reason for them not to see it or talk about it again, which I applaud because it wasn't good.
So there you go.
It was still a live-action remake of a classic Disney property.
It doesn't count. It's not on the wiki.
It counts.
Whatever.
The wiki is inaccurate.
Anyway, Pete's Dragon, 2 thumbs up.
Down. Anyway, point being, they're batting a little over 500 with this, right? About the 500 mark, give or take.
Sure.
All things considered.
So here's what we have coming up, though. The Lion King, Maleficent, Lady and the Tramp, Mulan, Cruella, The Sword and the Stone, Pinocchio, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Lilo and Stitch, and The Little Mermaid.
Okay. About 4 of those might not suck.
The only one that I'm actually intrigued by is Sword in the Stone. That's one I've actually been saying. Okay, so that and Black Cauldron, I've been saying for a while, if you're going to keep doing these stupid live-action remakes, give it to those two. They could really benefit from them.
No, Disney absolutely destroyed Black Cauldron, and I grew up. The Prydain Chronicles were a very that was the fantasy series that I enjoyed as a kid, and they're written for kids, so fair play. But that movie just butchered that property from for a lot of people. And if you want to redo it, then you should try to make all 5. Make the actual series again. Make the actual series, not a one of, where you just mash together elements from 3 different books and go, hey, fun.
And make Gurgi mute.
No, Gurgi can talk, but good lord, that one from Black Cauldron was bad.
Yeah, that proto Gollum voice. Ugh, I hated it.
I didn't like the character design either, quite frankly. He looked... Yeah, they could have done better. Anyway.
So real quick, Lion King and Maleficent are obviously theatrical, but as are Mulan and Cruella. But the Sword in the Stone and Lady and the Tramp are both going to be Disney Plus features. And so, we already know Lion King and Maleficent and Lady and the Tramp are all coming out this year. Mulan is slated for next year. Cruella is in pre-production now. The Sword and the Stone's actually filming. Pinocchio's in pre-production.
Have they learned nothing about bad Arthurian legend adaptations yet?
and then the last 3 are just in development. So that's where we are with that.
You know what? I'll admit, I think a live-action Mulan could be pretty good.
That one could be good. A live-action Little Mermaid could be good. Hang on, let me be clear. I have no interest, but there's enough material there to work with and kind of make something that might not be the worst thing ever. And since I'm going to have to watch it, I'm going to root for it in that respect.
Well, I guess if they were able to get the CGI well enough that they can make people look like they're talking underwater in Aquaman, maybe it could work. I've just never been a huge fan of Little Mermaid.
Me neither, but just get James Wan to direct it.
So yeah, Aladdin, yeah?
All right, so the point, I bring that up for a very specific reason, actually. Because given the track record, given the way things are trending, just very briefly, and I'm going to steal Mark's 50 words or less, and I'm going to count, because Mark doesn't do that, but I do, because I'm a psychotic individual like that. Just, again, 50 words or less, Mark, your expectations for this movie, just going into it, like, okay, they're doing a live-action Aladdin, because you were all in on the live-action Pete's Dragon. You're like, yeah, this is going to be great. I love Pete's Dragon. And then I wanted to kill you for making me see that.
Okay, my expectations for Aladdin. I didn't have any expectations per se. I had hopes and dreams. Go with
those then.
Yeah, I had hopes and dreams that Will Smith was going to put his own spin on the genie and just not settle for the Borscht Belt impression of Robin Williams. And I mostly got that. I mean, there's a couple of shared lines, maybe even 1 or 2 shared deliveries, but ultimately I thought this was kind of... I was saying this to somebody else, and if you saw the movie, maybe you'll get what I'm saying. Maybe you think I'm a crazy person. Who knows? But I kind of got, like... This was sort of a mishmash between Bollywood and The Wiz for me. You know, like, this was
that's not wrong.
This was a Wizified Aladdin. Kind of a hip-hop spin on the Disney animated classic. And that's kind of where I got I got Will Smith's take on this character from. He was like, well, I can't do Robin Williams and I shouldn't do Robin Williams, so I'll do me. And, Will Smith has a soulful...
That's a pregnant pause there, Mark.
As a soulful sentiment and delivery about him. Have I crushed any eggshells in that sentence?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Mark, come on.
Terrific.
Have you ever been able to successfully offend me, first of all?
Well, no, I'm not. It's not you I'm worried about. And it was more of I was actively trying to not offend anybody, so I think I actually made
good luck with that.
I think I actually made it, with all the plates and everything still on the tray. That was a clumsy way to reference for those of you who didn't get it. Anyway, I figured the songs would be good. They were. I figured the performances would be, outside of Will Smith, would be good. They didn't quite get to the level of good. They got to about okay. they got to passable. What I did not, I'm going to bring this up now, and we can come back to it if we don't want to really get into it. But I'm getting this impression that in writers' rooms across Hollywood of late, there's somebody in the room going, "Okay, we have to make this appeal to feminists," and every guy in the room just sort of rolls his eyes, takes a deep sigh, and goes, "Fine." And they think that feminism is making your lead character a shrill nightmare. Like, you know, and while I didn't think that way about, sorry, Alexis, Captain Marvel, certainly that's the impression she gave lots of other people. And I feel like this is coming up again and again and again. It's like, this character is 2019. This is modern feminism, and they're just shrill and yelling at people and not particularly feminist.
And there's another one from Dumbo, because the daughter is kind of harshly dislikable.
Yeah. So I just like I kind of want to say to these people, like, that's not feminism. I don't know what you think this is, but I'm getting the impression that like Hollywood writers across the state just hate fucking women at this point, and they're just like, we have to do this. These are the notes, and then they don't put any effort into it, and they make the character really unlikable. So while I wanted to like the Jasmine character, and I don't have a real problem with the idea of what they were going for, they just executed it so piss poorly it comes off badly. Am I like out in left field here? Hang on, let's bring Alexis into this. Am I out in left field here?
Do you want me to start on the Jasmine tangent now, or do you want me to save it for later in the show?
You know what? Just do it now. Let's. And also, go ahead, and if you have a whole thing you want to do on this, by all means, go for it.
Okay, this is actually something that drives me absolutely insane with princess characters.
Hang on, I'm dying. Hang on, I'm dying over here. Left field, yes or no?
No, it's not out of left field.
Woohoo! Okay.
Okay. Have either of you seen a film called The Thief and the Cobbler?
Yes.
Okay.
Whoa. Let me clarify, because there's two different ways to go about The Thief and the Cobbler. God help me, I found the appropriate fan cut of that movie that includes a bunch of stuff from the work print, because the studio in charge absolutely butchered the ending and added songs. So if all you have is a theatrical version of The Thief and the Cobbler, I beg of you, burn it. And on like YouTube, Vimeo, on the internet, you can find this. There's an appropriate like fan supercut that includes elements of the finalized product and stuff that was just from the work print that they had. There's actually a great documentary about the story of that movie. I've seen the real one, not the watered down, essentially Aladdin wannabe that was released by the studio.
Okay, yes, you're absolutely right. It's called the Recobbled Cut. I highly recommend it to anyone. It's not for everyone. There's some who probably aren't going to be able to sit through the pencil tests and the line work because it is not a completed version. But anyone who considers themselves
and all the people who can't stand a mute protagonist.
That too. But anyone who's a fan of animation, I highly recommend tracking down the Recobbled Cut. However, I've seen both. I had a family member who had the VHS of The Thief and the Cobbler, which was the theatrical release, with Matthew Broderick voicing the lead. Yeesh. But I have seen it. And there were parts of it that I did like. Again, I went and sat through the Recobbled Cut, and I got all of those parts and more. I mean, I'm not going to knock Vincent Price's voice acting for even a moment. Because I love that man. He was amazing.
The story behind his lines is also pretty great, too.
Oh, hilarious. But getting back to the point, there's the whole thing with the Princess Yum Yum, as she's named in that movie, about how she's a feminist, and you have this big musical number that she's more than a pretty face, and she just doesn't want to sit by her father's side. And there's this line later which goes, "Father, I'm smarter than any man in this city, and I'm faster than anyone who works for you, blah, blah, blah." But we have seen nothing in that movie so far that would establish that. She's just suddenly saying, "Yes, I'm fast, and I'm smart, and I can do this." That is what I got with this Jasmine. She says we're told how she wants to be sultan. She doesn't want to just be the princess. She wants to do more for Agrabah. And I get that, and I like that, but at the same time, we are shown nothing that would give us any reason why she should be sultan. The only thing she does is give away 2 loaves of bread and then yell at the merchant.
Steal.
Yeah, she steals, and then it's not and then unlike in the original where she just didn't understand, oh, I have to pay for this. This time she's going, those children were starving. They shouldn't have to worry about that, which I'm sitting there going, okay, yes, they were starving, but are you not familiar with the fact that the bread maker needs money to pay for his stuff? And
do you not understand the market? You're
Yeah.
literally in a marketplace.
And I just watched that whole thing going, okay, was the Jasmine not in the original animated film the greatest character? Not really. She didn't do as much, but I felt that she had an established character and that worked. This one, I felt that they were pushing feminism for feminism's sake without actually giving us any reason to back it up. Hell, the whole in the climax when she convinces the guard to stand with her father and not Jafar, I was sitting there going, okay, now you're going to talk about some law or something, or the benefit of the people, or something like that, and she doesn't. And I'm sitting there going, why are we supposed to want you to be sultan? We're not seeing anything.
Yeah, there's a line in this movie, and let me be clear. I'm a guy who tends to sympathize with the villains, and I have issues with Jafar in this movie that I will get to, and that I will get to later. But when she is kind of she overhears her father and Jafar talking about matters of state, essentially, and offers some perspectives, a few of which are valid. But Jafar actually does say, you've read all the best books. You have 0 experience. This is a problem. He's right. And let me be clear, that's just bad writing. You should not be watching this and going, and when the villain, the established villain, everybody goes into this knowing Jafar's the bad guy. There's no gray area here. When the established villain of your movie tells the hero something negative about themselves to be demeaning more than anything else, and they're correct, you have failed drastically in setting up your situation from a writing perspective. Unless they were going to actually play into the fact that she lacks real-world experience as part of her character growth, then okay, I can forgive it because it pays off. But here, no, not really.
So I have something I need to bring up about this character, but I feel like it won't really be impactful until we've done the plot synopsis. So let's do a pause on Jasmine and then come back to this.
All right. The plot of Aladdin. I mean, you've all seen the movie, the original, I assume. Nothing really changes. A few devices change. We open with Will Smith telling the story to his children rather than. So again, the narrator setup is different. We skip a lot of the character introductions from the animated movie in favor of dropping us in media res, which, fair play, it works. We meet Aladdin, a thief from the streets of Agrabah. He saves what turns out to be the princess, who is apropos of very little, apart from just boredom and claustrophobia, apparently, out in the marketplace disguised. Can I also just say the palace guards in that city, like all of the guards, be that military or whatever, they all suck. Just all of them. Because she sneaks out, frequently apparently. Aladdin sneaks in. Like, who are these people? These are worse than stormtroopers. Stormtroopers might never hit what they aim at, but they at least see things going on. These guys are just asleep at the wheel. So they escape from... Again, he gets her out of trouble when she steals bread from a vendor and then berates his brother for not being a communist. How dare you seek profit, you evil, evil capitalist pig. They share bonding moments. She winds up back in the palace because she's lying to him about her identity. Aladdin sneaks back into the palace to see her. He believes she's a handmaiden, not the actual princess. On his way out, he's arrested, but he is saved from summary execution. I mean, he shouldn't have been they shouldn't have arrested him. They should have just killed him in the hallway, but competent guards would just ruin every movie ever. Because Jafar has been looking for the diamond in the rough, which is a very nebulous phrase, and he is led to believe it's Aladdin courtesy of his parrot Iago, who is apparently significantly more all-knowing than previous iterations of that character. He takes Aladdin to the Cave of Wonders, which he has discovered has been throwing people into pretty consistently for the last... We don't know how long, actually, but this is a known location to him and not recently. He's been at this for a while, trying to find the person that the cave will deem worthy of entering and finding the treasure within. It does turn out to be Aladdin. Jafar bonds a little bit with Aladdin, or at least tries to, over their shared history of being lowly born street thieves who dreamed bigger and in Jafar's case rose to a significant level of prominence and power. Aladdin does enter the cave. He is warned, as usual, touch nothing but the lamp. He goes, he gets the lamp, the greedy monkey. Why would you even take the monkey into the cave? Grabs a gem. The cave is displeased with this and tries to bathe them in molten lava. Aladdin tries to escape. Jafar double-crosses him, takes the lamp. The monkey steals it back. They wake up locked, trapped underground in a cave with a magic carpet. Aladdin rubs the lamp. Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Blue Air, shows up.
Okay, that's good.
The genie, who explains to him the rules of having a genie. The genie is tricked into helping them out of the cave again. Different method of tricking this time, but is still tricked. Aladdin winds up wishing to be made into a prince. The genie explains that a lot of his magic is actually BS. Which, can I just say, it's a device. I genuinely liked that. The fact that the genie straight up says, people see what they want to see. I just kind of nudge them in that direction. Was really kind of great, especially since they tried really, really obviously to beat you over the head with their message. He shows up at Agrabah, now in the guise of Prince Ali of Bavois, a non-existent location, to court the princess. This goes disastrously for all parties concerned originally. Jafar realizes that Prince Ali is actually Aladdin, and he has the lamp. He gets the lamp back from him. He wishes to become Sultan, which also immediately fails. He then wishes to become the most powerful sorcerer in the world, and the genie grants him actual magical abilities. I'll save that for later, actually. I had a point there, but it'll wait. Aladdin shows back up. He and Jasmine stage an attempted stealing of the lamp. They are foiled by what might genuinely be the most horrifying parrot you've ever seen. After Jafar makes Iago grow to, I'm going to say rock-like levels of size, which is not a reference anyone will get, but...
No, I got that. I that's actually exactly what I sounded like, we turn him into a rock. So...
Just a parrot rock.
Well, have you ever seen a rock that didn't look like a parrot?
Yes.
I think we're getting off track here.
Anyway, he is foiled. He then seeks to exact further. Jafar then seeks to exact further vengeance. He is tricked by Aladdin again. This time into wishing to become the most powerful being in the universe. The genie, very deliberately utilizing the gray area language in that wish, turns him into a genie. which then locks him in a lamp. He's then tossed into the Cave of Wonders. Aladdin wishes for the genie's freedom. Jasmine is made sultan because her father realizes he's too old for this shit, I guess. I don't know. They get married. There's a big dance number to close things off, and everyone's happy at the end. I mean, there's a few things I'm skipping over here a little bit that we can get into in more detail if we feel so inclined, but it's the same basic story. Again, they fleshed out things. They gave Jasmine...
They tried.
They tried. They gave her more screen time. Okay, I'll put it like that.
They gave her her own song, which amounted to her yelling and nagging.
I will give credit that Naomi Scott is a good singer, and she nailed the notes. So
I mean,
it's nothing against her performance.
You know, I'm not saying she did not sing well, but the song she sang was the very definition of shrill.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, especially the refrain.
Anyone else kind of I did not get what they were going with the refrain when she turns around and everyone suddenly turns to smoke around her. I was like, really? That's where you're going with this? What basically amounts to Thanos porn?
Yeah, that was an odd choice. That was odd. I mean,
yeah,
really odd. Made very little sense to me. So okay, we had more stuff. Mark, you had other things you wanted to talk about with Jasmine, so let's start there. Just as a means of continuing your previous point, lest you forget it.
Okay. I have to put my phone down and try to stop looking for my resume.
It's the second time you've mentioned that. Should I ask if you're applying to other places?
No, I'm trying to get promoted.
Good for you.
Seriously, sorry, Mark, but I'm glad you clarified, because when people say they're getting at their resume, that's usually code for I'm about to be fired.
Oh, no. I'm possibly in line to be promoted, but I have to apply for the job, including sending them my resume. And it's like, you have my resume. I work here, but whatever.
Hey, fingers crossed for you, man.
How long have you been there? 5 years?
It'll be 5 years this November.
Yeah, you have my resume. The last 5 years. The building's not on fire. Things are better. There's my resume.
Seriously.
I'm one of the few people who hasn't killed anyone here. I don't know why you need my resume at this point. Doesn't that speak for itself? All right, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, HR department, down the hall. Pretty sure they've got this on file.
Yeah, my resume hasn't changed since you hired me, except the addition of me working here. Anyway, they said it. This is a part of the new me, which says when my boss says something, I actually do it without complaining. I figured that's a great way to get myself promoted, so that's my strategy at least. Anyway, no one cares about this. We're talking about Aladdin here.
No, but we do have to get your bit about... Look, this is for all the people playing on the bingo cards at home. Mark has now talked about his job.
Hey, at least I didn't talk about my dog. The last 83 weeks with Eric Bischoff, he did a 20-minute thing on how he had to chase his dog through the desert.
Look, Eric Bischoff is desperate to fill airtime. I mean, how many literal months did Stone Cold bitch about the rats on his ranch?
Vince, I got these rats! Oh, I've forgotten about his superhuman rats that were taking over his property. Alexis, the things you miss out by not being a wrestling fan, you're not missing anything.
No. Missing is the wrong word. The things you dodge.
I did correct myself instantaneously there. All right,
you guys got to remember, I used to be a wrestling fan when I was still with Sean. It's very hard to be a wrestling fan when you don't have someone there with you to enjoy it. Wrestling is something that is much more enjoyable when you have someone that with you, and you can kind of bounce your excitement off of one another.
It really is a communal event, a communal form of entertainment more so than an isolated one. Anyway, back on topic.
All right, let's talk. I've already talked about the genie a little bit. I thought Will Smith, again, brought a kind of hip-hop, soulful element to the genie. He and The Rock both need equal amounts of auto-tuning for their songs. You know, I give him credit for trying, but it was very clear Will Smith can't sing. He can rap just fine. He can do Parents Just Don't Understand with the best of them. He can get jiggy with it. What he can't do is carry a Broadway tune. But, they tried, so credit where credit's due. People are complaining about, his CGI.
Okay, hang on. Can I, if I may briefly address this as the CGI snob in the room?
Please do.
The CGI in this entire movie is mostly okay. It is Will Smith as the genie, when he's not lifting weights, when he's not comically buffing up his body while his head remains the same size, it's okay. It's acceptable. There's a few points in him with him as the genie that I rolled my eyes. This is very obviously not his body. I mean, very obviously not his body. Even when he's in regular size genie, there seems to be points when they're like, okay, we've established that in genie mode he's, out to here with a muscle gut, and Will Smith is $145. I joke. So again, it's mostly perfectly acceptable. Anyone finding, again, there's 4 or 5 different individual points you can pick out. But at that point, you're reaching my levels of nitpickery, which, thank you, welcome to the club. I've been here for 5 years. Again, a lot of it is...
Are you done now?
No. Yeah, I'm out of it. Again, most of it is perfectly acceptable. There's individual instances, but on the whole, Will Smith's genie persona... There's some weirdness about the transition between his body and the smoke, though. Here's
what I was going to say.
Very specific points.
There are times it looks very cartoonish, but I'm wondering if that was something they were... I think they were trying to skirt the line between cartoony and obviously realistic. And then, there are times where he's just himself. And clearly they were doing that to try to limit the amount of CGI they had to use. Because Robin Williams never turned into a real person in the cartoon. Then again, the whole thing was animated. They didn't have to. So I think here they kind of saved time, money, and space. They were like, we're going to have scenes where you're just a dude. And I was fine with that. Let me quick just talk about the one major problem I had with this movie. Because I've heard some other complaints, and I'm sure we'll get to that when we get to the Rotten Tomato stuff. The male lead, the guy playing Aladdin, I couldn't tell if that was his real voice or they just piped in music from the cartoon. Honestly, it sounded that similar that I was like, that doesn't really sound like it's coming from him. Now maybe I'm wrong, but the other complaint about him was, and I don't think this is fair, is people were like, I don't understand why they got a guy who was really good at CrossFit and parkour to be Aladdin. And I'm like, come on.
Have you never seen a Guy Ritchie movie before?
Well, not only that, but there's a bit of that in the cartoon itself where Aladdin's jumping through windows and shit. So
yeah, I mean, his whole first song about how he's just, one step ahead of absolute catastrophe.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, that's not fair. And I thought he did a passable job. Him and the chick who plays Jasmine have zero sexual chemistry. There's just... They were a cute couple, but when I saw them together, I was like, oh, I'm not getting any sparks here at all. But here's my major gripe. So, for the most part, it's a lot of the same beats as the cartoon, and then you get to the bit where Jafar throws him out the window. At this point, Jafar is single-mindedly after the lamp. The bits where... And this is where I feel like the plot got lost in the screenwriting room, and they forgot what they were doing, and there were no notes to fix it. I don't know how that happened in a Disney film, but it happened because there's a major gap here, and it really bugged me. Jafar talked with the Sultan about wanting to invade other countries, and he very clearly had a motivation. He wanted to be Sultan, and he wanted to create a great Arabic empire. Good for him. Terrific. Perfectly passable villain motivation and plot. He told none of that to Aladdin. And the scene after Aladdin gets nearly drowned, Aladdin, it's off screen, but Aladdin essentially tells Jasmine, hey, Jafar XYZ wants to do blah blah yakety schmackety, and they are immediately going after Jafar for that reason, and then he ends up in the dungeon. And I'm like, Jafar never said any of that to Aladdin. All Aladdin had to go with was, hey, this guy tried to kill me over a lamp. But they don't address that part of it. They only address you want the Sultan's job and you want to go to war, you warmonger. I mean, did I miss something here? Because otherwise, that's a huge fucking plot issue that this movie has. They jump into the third act without actually giving the character who prompts it any of the needed information.
Robert? I mean, I could make an argument in favor of the way they handled it, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to go out on a limb to defend this movie. I'm just not.
Okay, but did I miss something? Because
no.
Okay, so to me, look, you can defend it any way you want, but to me that was a huge gap in information. It just felt like they rushed it without getting the audience where they needed to be. They were like, we got to get to the part where Jafar goes in the dungeon and move this along. Like they cut it for time or something. Go ahead, Alexis.
I'm going to go ahead and admit I don't remember that. I know he kicked him out of. He basically performed a Salem witch trial, basically saying, I'm going to chuck you out the window if you survive. You've got the lamp. If not, I just killed you. Whatever. I mean, seriously, who else was thinking there was? It's like an Animaniacs cartoon. It's like if the witch survives, we'll prosecute her. If she drowns, then an apology will be, sent.
All right, here's we have a procedure in place. All right, here's your due process. I give you a broom, I push you off this cliff. If you fall to your good Christian death, well, you fell to a good Christian death and were welcomed by God. If you're a witch, you're going to get on the broom, you'll fly, at which point you will report right back here to this point for summary torture and beheading.
Okay, so fast forward to the next scene, though, where it's implied that Aladdin said something to Jasmine. Jasmine's now ahead of the game, and then she turns on Jafar. Do you remember what she says to him, what she's focusing on?
I legit do not remember that. I know God, I really don't remember any of the dialogue from that scene. I know that Aladdin finally sees, like in the anime movie, he sees that the Sultan's being hypnotized, and he smashes the staff.
Right.
For the record, I want that staff with the malachite pieces embedded in it. That was gorgeous.
Yes, it was. Best piece of production design in that whole movie.
You know what, actually, I'm going to go ahead and give credit. The sets and the props and everything in the movie were very well put together. I don't see this movie walking away with any Oscars, but I would not mind seeing it get nominated for production design. It was impressive.
It has a budget of $183 million, and I feel like that's something you and I talked about offline. So much of it was spent on the ornate sets and the song and dance numbers and Will Smith CGI that they had nothing left over when it got to the conclusion of the movie, and they were supposed to be a giant snake, and they're like, we don't got no money for giant snakes. Well, fuck it. We'll just put everybody in a purple force field.
Okay, yeah, that actually had... I do not like to rage at movies. I don't like to be the kind of fan that we're going to talk about in the Screaming Boy podcast come June, plug. But,
now you got it.
But that did royally piss me off. The climax of the animated Aladdin is freaking amazing, with Jafar hurling every ounce of his magic at Aladdin, trapping Jasmine in the hourglass, unraveling carpet and, hurling swords at him and fire and the snake and everything. And I remember watching going, okay, the whole thing with Iago turning into the Rock was really cool. And sweet Jesus, I hang out with you guys too much now because I can't say that without imagining him turning into Dwayne Johnson. I mean,
in fairness, if you have the magical ability to turn your pet parrot into Dwayne Johnson, that's what you should be doing.
Agreed. But seriously, I can't stop getting this mental image in my head now. Damn it. But I was so pissed off. And it's like, okay, so he wishes to become the greatest sorcerer in the world, aside from a little bit of levitation, a little bit of the Cruciatus curse.
Well, he does transport a bunch of them to parts unknown.
Yeah, a little bit of the transportation. That's it. I was like, oh my God, I know that the animated movie obviously can get away with more, but if you're going to claim you're the greatest and most powerful sorcerer in the world, I expect more magic than this.
You expect sorcery?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
By the way, points to either of you if you got what I meant by the Cruciatus curse.
Yes, I know. I have read all the books. I've seen all the movies. Your references are not lost on me.
Thank you. So I was like, everything was quiet. I'm like, please tell me I did not just waste a perfectly good Harry Potter reference on this. But yeah, it pissed me off because I was waiting. If they were going to turn him into the giant snake, yes, that fountain, when they're having the showdown, has a giant snake over it. I'm like, at least, if you're going to be, Maleficent levels of lazy where you turn something else into the giant monster, do that. But it was such a letdown to see, in my opinion, one of the greatest Disney villains of all time kind of just puss out.
Look, all of these live-action animations, the villains have been a pretty obvious downgrade in terms of actual presentation and characterization from the animated movies. I give Beauty and the Beast credit for fleshing out Gaston into an actual character. One of the things I liked about the movie. I give this one credit because much as I enjoy Jafar in the animated movies, we don't know. He is every stereotypical power-hungry advisor ever. And here, they gave him a bit more to work with. And I appreciate that. I appreciate his motivation is perfectly fine being the amassing of power. That works. If that's the only thing, if that's the only bit of characterization you have is, hey, I want stuff, then I got a problem with that. So they gave him a bit more of a character, but they've all just fallen so... Again, I will give a minor exception to Angelina Jolie's Maleficent because she chews scenery so well. And the writing for that might have been really, really lazy, and it was. But and I take massive issue with the directions they took the character, again, from a writing perspective. But she's the only actor in one of those roles who has been allowed to actually maintain a bit of memorability to the character. Here, again, Beauty and the Beast, or Pete's Dragon, or Dumbo, or what's the other one? Any of them. I don't really care. Pick any of them. Okay, no, Cinderella was okay, but Cate Blanchett was not put in a position to really succeed the same way that the animated version was.
Let's face it, Lady Tremaine in the animated was 10 times more threatening than Cate Blanchett was. That stare at the third point climax when she realizes that Cinderella was at the ball and the lights dim, but all you see are those green eyes.
Yep.
That was haunting.
That is some beautiful animation, and yeah, she doesn't quite get that. But and it does. So again, there were things done to Jafar here that could have played to his strengths, but then elements of the writing fall down, and frankly, the actor is... Like, can we just talk for a minute about how bad this guy is as Jafar?
I think the only thing I liked about him was the speech he was giving when Aladdin was about to go into the cave, that he takes over what the Cave of Wonders originally said. It's like, you will be tempted, but do not touch the treasure. He gives that speech very well. And and I did like that. I'm also going to say I loved the redesign of the Cave of Wonders. And again, thank you for not recasting Frank Welker as the voice. All praise
Agreed.
to the voice-over god that is Frank Welker.
One of the things I really liked about the movie was it did... Look, musicals have to do at least one thing right. The songs and dance numbers have to be fun and entertaining and well done. And I think... almost all of them, including, was it Naomi Scott who plays Jasmine? Is that her name?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. All of the songs were entertaining. Most of the songs were entertaining. All the dance numbers, I thought were very well done. It definitely has a very Bollywood feel to it, which I'm fine with. All of that, all the time. It's a very pretty looking movie. I think we talked about this with Beauty and the Beast, and that is you have to put at least a spin on something. You have to flesh things out a little bit in order for these shot-by-shot, scene-by-scene remakes to be at all successful. Or why are we doing this? What is the point? And I think that's where Aladdin misses the mark for me. is that they don't really do anything with it other than they flip Jasmine's character to where instead of just, her right to marry who she wants to be Sultan and she wants to be a leader of the people. But as Alexis said, she doesn't really do anything with that motivation. She just kind of yells about it a lot. And then, and then her big number is
she's the Bernie Sanders of this movie.
Yeah, pretty much. So her big number, I will not be silent. And so her big heroic moment, the thing that she contributes to this to make her not a do nothing princess, is she turns around and yells at Jafar, which accomplishes almost nothing. And
she just yells at the captain of the guard like. I mean, there wasn't. Again, I agree with Alexis completely. There's any number of directions you could have actually taken that. She could have cited some obscure law,
right?
Because if she's read all these things, she should know them. She could cite something like that to illegitimize his rule, but instead she just makes like the most basic emotional appeal, and he goes, "Well, this didn't matter when your dad did it, but you've got boobs, so okay."
Yeah, she basically goes, nut up or shut up.
In defense of Jasmine, though, she does do one slightly heroic thing. She swipes the lamp from Jafar, and then that produces the chase scene. That's it. That's her major accomplishment in this entire picture. The one who had, I think, the most charisma and the most interesting story, and was a real female character who was fleshed out and interesting, was her handmaiden. They gave the best stuff to her.
Who also gets one of the best lines in the whole movie? When can we leave? Also, I want children. I do have to add this because I didn't get a chance to really go in on this. I liked Will Smith as the genie. When I heard he was cast, I said, I was glad about it because we could not have a movie where someone was trying to imitate Robin Williams. Cannot be done, especially since that role was basically created for him.
Yeah, everyone involved in the writing of the '92 Aladdin has said they took inspiration from Robin Williams. They approached him with the role and had no plan B if he turned them down.
Yeah, the way they approached him, they actually did pencil tests of the genie with Robin's stand-up, and which is
hilarious.
Yes, it is. It is so freaking funny. I love Robin Williams' stand-up, and I miss him so much. No one can ever replicate what he did.
As an aside, have you ever heard Reality? What a Concept?
Not sure if I have or not.
Okay, so when you're done with this, go on YouTube. Robin Williams Reality, What a Concept. You haven't heard Robin Williams stand up until you've heard him do a club set in the 70s. Holy shit.
Googling it now. But anyways, I said, you know what? I actually like the idea of casting Will Smith because I thought he could bring something different. And frankly, he did. This is not, Will Smith giving his absolute best performance, but he gives such a great amount of charm and charisma. It's like watching the old days of his time as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or his early films like Independence Day and stuff, and Men in Black. Regardless of what your thoughts on those movies, Will Smith had this great charm about him when he did it, and I thought he brought that to this role. And frankly, any scene he was in, I enjoyed it. I even liked a little bit more of it. Again, having him appear human so that he could interact more with the other characters, so he could just pass himself off as Ali's servant. I liked that. I
liked parts of that, but I kind of feel like they put him in front of the camera and said, "Hey, do Hitch."
Okay, I'll give you that. There is some truth to that. But, I even didn't mind the singing. Is he belting out something level of Broadway? No, of course not. But I still enjoyed it. It's very similar to, again, Dwayne Johnson when he played as Maui.
Yeah.
Is Dwayne Johnson the greatest singer in the world? Hell no. But I can listen to that song constantly, and I never get sick of it. I love listening to the soundtrack from Moana.
I brought that up before, the comparison to Will Smith to The Rock. And the answer I got back from the person I was talking to was, Yeah, but You're Welcome was more suited to The Rock than anything fucking Will Smith sang in Aladdin.
That's true.
I'll give you that.
True, and credit to the lyricist for You're Welcome, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Much as I think Hamilton is significantly overrated by the majority of filmgoers, he crafted a lot of that song around The Rock. Once The Rock was cast as Maui, he had the basic idea, and then once Dwayne Johnson comes on board, okay, let's make this work. And I mean, that also gave us some of the funniest Instagram videos you'll ever see when those two were palling around.
But no, I did like Will Smith. I agree with what you were saying, Mark, about the CGI being a little cartoony. I think that was done on purpose. I think you're right. And Robert, I think that's what leads it to being a little bit better, because they didn't have to hide it or make a lot of it look as realistic. I mean, you got a scene where, Will Smith does, as the genie, does yoga and obviously is stretching his body out, and then he pulls out the telescope for the, oh, look, there's a reason we bought the 3D tickets scene, because there's no other reason they did that. And it's so cartoony, but it works. And when you're doing cartoony CGI, you can get away with that.
This whole movie, I think, you mentioned it. It's never quite sure where it wants to fall between cartoony and realistic, and that's not just true of the CGI. I think the movie as a whole is never quite sure which side of that line it wants to fall on, and as a result, it ends up in this dead area.
But that's what I think. I think that's a major detriment to the film, is that.
I agree.
It doesn't raise itself to any heights to make it really worth the while. It can't decide on what it wants to be, and so it's just bland. It looks pretty, but it's kind of a dumb blonde, It's that's not sexist. It could be a dumb blonde guy, dumb blonde whatever you like, dumb blonde corgi. I don't care. It's just it looks pretty, and it's just kind of dumb.
Eddie is tricolor. Thank you very much.
Alrighty then. I got to talk about my daughter for a second. So I brought this up to Alexis, and it's worth talking about because again, this isn't made for the three of them. It might be made somewhat for Alexis in the sense that she was. How old were you when Aladdin came out?
Aladdin came out in 92, right?
Correct.
92. If it came out the summer of 92, I would have been. Hang on. About 8.
Okay, so this
That's
is
about where I was.
Yeah, so it's meant for people, kind of on your age, for on the nostalgia. It's meant, but it's really there. It's there for the audience that appreciates the Disney princess and specifically the Disney Renaissance. Same as Beauty and the Beast. So it's going after that audience. Obviously, my daughter, who is right in the thick of Disney princess worship, is the target, right? They want her to go see the movie, then run immediately to the Disney store and go buy a Jasmine dress, which is what I want to focus on here. Because we talked about it after the movie. Whenever I bring my daughter to something, I always have a conversation. I was like, well, what did you tell me what you thought of the movie? And I'll ask her some questions. And she's getting to be a fun age now where she actually has opinions I can make sense of. Because she's always had opinions.
Next step, you know what comes after that phase, right?
Not wanting to listen to your parents?
Something like that.
Rebellion. So here's the first thing. I asked her which one did she prefer. Did she prefer the cartoon or the live action? And she said it's a mixed bag, and I'm paraphrasing here. It's a mixed bag because she liked the movie better than the cartoon, but she liked cartoon Jasmine better than the real one, which I was shocked by.
No, that is the most sense your daughter has ever made.
And I was a little shocked by that because my daughter, I joked around. If anyone who follows me on Facebook, I joked around about this. Is a little feminist. I had the audacity to do as I've done now several times, and I say the word chick in reference to women, and she said to me, I don't approve of you using that word. Say female singer or female or whatever. We're not chicks. You Neanderthal. You. So I was expecting her to be very much in favor of pro feminist Jasmine, and she really wasn't. She was like, this Jasmine seemed like she was a lot of talk and not a lot of follow through. And I'm like, interesting. She was like, and she's like, how can she want to travel the world and be, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but how can she want to be this powerful person and travel the world and be all feminist and then want to wear dresses everywhere? The other one at least had the good sense to wear a nice jumpsuit. And I was, and she very much focused on the two outfits. She was like, the other Jasmine's sassier and definitely bucked the system, and she wore pants and not a dress. And I was like, that is an interesting way of looking at this. That didn't even occur to me. So I thought that was fascinating that she picked up on that. But other than that, she had a good time at the movie. She was singing and dancing and having a grand old time. She had no problems with Jafar, by the way. She thought it was just good enough to be evil.
All right. Okay. Let me think. Okay, you brought up a couple of points I want to talk about very briefly. You mentioned the dance routines. The following complaint is not levied at every individual dance routine, but there's a few of them. And I'm not sure from a technical perspective what causes this. But the heads and the bodies did not look like they were connected.
Okay.
And I don't mean floating away from each other. I mean the body does something, but when we talked about Ready Player One, there's that very brief scene when the guy is showing off the treadmill that goes in all 360 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
His head and his hips are not attached, at all. There's nothing there that actually connects them biomechanically, and it's very, very obvious. I got the same feeling on a few different points with the dance numbers. Now, I'm not sure if they just sped up the lower parts of people's bodies, and that's what's causing the disconnect. Because there's a bunch of them that work just fine. I mean the time when Aladdin and Jasmine danced, I don't have a problem with any of that. That all looked fine.
Talking about. I would say, are you talking about the scene where Genie manipulates Aladdin to dance in the courtyard?
Yeah, I was okay with that. That didn't look. That I didn't have a visual problem with that. Almost all of Friend Like Me or the closing dance number, I watched this and went, okay, this looks like you sped up the dancers to 1.5 times speed, but left all the background the same.
Hey, real
quick.
It
just looks very awkward.
So my dad apparently saw it, and he said, unless I am misremembering, this version had a much more forceful and resourceful Jasmine. So the kid doesn't think this is as feminist as it could have been. Thought the cartoon had a more feminist Jasmine. My dad, the far left liberal, thought this Jasmine was perfectly feminist.
So we know what type of feminist actually wrote the movie then. Good.
That's hilarious.
Tell your father he is wrong, as he has been wrong about so many things throughout the course of his life.
You tell him. I can't talk to the man.
All right, Chris. You're wrong as you have been about so many things throughout your life.
Oh, if he listens to this, I'm so getting a phone call. Tell me what I'm wrong about. Tell me what I'm wrong about. I'm not the one that said it.
Haven't you frequently mentioned that I'm too much like your father?
You are way too much like my dad. All right.
Anyway, so hang on.
Yeah, wrap up so we can move on.
Yeah. I don't know if this was an actual issue of speeding things up to make them try to look more impressive, but keeping the backgrounds the same. I don't know if it's an issue of the type of camera or frame rate they have while people are dancing against green screen that can cause that same kind of blurry motion. I don't know if they didn't just CGI their bodies. They put them in motion capture shoots from the neck down, and we're like, okay, stand here so your head's in the right spot, and we'll do the rest, kind of thing. I don't know. But there were a few of those different dance numbers that I watched and I went, something is not right here from a purely technical perspective. And I'm not sure what it is. But there was something there that just didn't quite add up visually for me.
All right.
I have one thing I have to talk about very briefly.
Okay.
because we've talked a little bit about Will Smith as the genie, and I said going into this I thought he'd be perfectly serviceable. He was. He didn't try to do Robin Williams, thank God, because that would have been just a catastrophe of
epic proportions.
Like, almost like four-stick proportions. Like, that's such a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully Will Smith was smart enough to go, I think he said he turned it down the first time they offered him the role of the genie. Like, no, I can't follow Robin Williams. But they actually did with the writing of the genie. They gave him a few things here because, again, they fleshed out a lot of stuff, partially just to accommodate the longer runtime. And one of the things that they gave him, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, I said to Mark that after about 30 minutes into this movie, I knew I was going to have to spend the movie looking for things to talk about because the movie wasn't going to put forth any effort. And I stand by that. In many respects, this is a lazy movie. And You know what? And fair play, it's not meant to be challenging. It's not meant to. I'm not asking it to be, but I'm not going to use this as a massive pejorative. I'm going to acknowledge it. And so if I'm reading too much into this, fine. I was too desperately looking for things to talk about. I'll own that if this one's on me. But there's a few lines from the genie in this movie that give some more substance to his relationship with Aladdin than we got in the first one. In the first one, it's two very charismatic characters.
Hang on, was it the part about jams?
No.
Oh, God.
That scene was actually quite funny. I love it. It's like in 10,000 years, I have never been more embarrassed.
that was funny, but the actual execution of that scene was Three's Company cringeworthy painful.
Wasn't that the point, though?
It was.
I don't know.
Let's put it this way: I was looking for a remote to fast forward. I couldn't take it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But no, in the first one, it's a couple of charismatic characters coming together. It's Genie finally being out of his lamp, finally getting to experience the world again, and kind of living on the promise that Aladdin makes that, you know what, I will set you free. That's not the Genie we get here from a characterization standpoint. Here, sure, he does say he wants to be free. That's not changing. He wants to be human. He wants to live a life worth living, rather than phenomenal cosmic power, itty-bitty living space. I also think that while that is true, that's not his driving factor. That's not his driving motivation the same way it was for the Genie in the original. Here, he says something that, again, I found very interesting, that he says like something to the effect of, normally by the time the guy comes down, finds the lamp and rubs it, he already knows all this. He's done the research. He's found out where I am. You're not that guy. Where is that guy? Like, oh, no, that guy's outside. Oh, so you rubbed my lamp. This might be the first time in like the entirety of his existence that he is presented with an opportunity to grant wishes to someone not a power-hungry maniac.
There's a point that I want to add to this when you're done.
He actively, by his own admission, roots for Aladdin to not be that guy.
Yeah.
And again, it's a bit of nuance and subtlety to this character that he actually says at one point, when Aladdin takes the cynical approach of you just want me to wish you free, he rejects that, and essentially for the point of, no, I want you to be a good person. And what you're doing now is not leading you down that path. And that, again, it's just something different that they could add to the character of the Genie, and I think it was a smart choice. And again, a lot of this is more on the subtle and nuanced side. So maybe it was not intentional on the part of the writers, because I'm not giving them credit for subtlety anywhere else. But for an all-powerful being who has seen nothing but, in many respects, the very worst of humanity come to fruition around him or because of him in some respects, or at least being enabled by him and what he is, to now find a person that he wants to succeed, a person that can, redeem some of his maybe waning faith in humanity. And again, I'm reaching there. Obviously, that's not in the material, but they gave him something beyond, I just really don't want to be a genie anymore, to know, Aladdin, I really want you to succeed, whether that comes at my expense or not.
It's an interesting cross sort of pollination of what Robin Williams' character was and independently what this character was trying to be. Because in the one sense, Robin Williams' genie was more of, I don't want to have to serve people anymore. I want to be my own I want to be my own thing. But where I think the movie is actually superior to the cartoon in this one instance is that this particular iteration of the genie not only doesn't want to be doesn't want to be a servant to an endless number of people, but also doesn't want to be a genie anymore. The cartoon kind of cheapens the wish fulfillment because Robin Williams gets to keep his powers. Now, because he's chaotic good, it doesn't really have any bearing on anything. He just he gets to sort of revel in his power, but he's a good dude, so it doesn't matter.
Well, his powers are significantly diminished. That's made abundantly clear in follow-up movies, but he does still retain his magic.
Okay, the follow-up movies are a bunch of crap.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying they exist.
Yeah, no, they do establish in the cartoon that, what is it, semi-phenomenal, nearly cosmic, by being free. I'm trying to remember if any point in this movie until the final scene that Genie reveals that if he's freed, he'll be human. I will add on a side note, though, I liked the opening with him on the boat starting to sing. I thought that was a nice little homage to, I'm sure you guys know this, the opening narrator in the animated Aladdin was also Robin Williams. And it was actually the creator's idea that they didn't get a chance to do it, but the idea was that they were going to go back to the salesman and it was going to be the genie in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
I
kind of like that idea. And when I saw him on the boat, he starts to sing Arabian Nights.
Coffee maker also makes Chilean fries. Will not break. Will not eat
it broke. My absolute favorite bit of trivia about that, they apparently just put a bunch of props out on a table and they told Robin Williams, said, do whatever the hell you want. He is ad-libbing that whole thing.
I have never seen one of these intact before. This is the famous Dead Sea Tupperware. Listen. Still good.
I love that scene. But again, I did like that they had him in the opening. I thought that was a nice little homage to the idea that they wanted to go within the original film.
It's a kind of the same way that in Peter Pan, it's tradition that whoever plays Mr. Darling also plays Captain Hook.
Oh, totally.
So just to wrap up this final point and move on, I don't think it's firmly established in this one what will happen if he's free. It's just but I thought this strengthened the wish fulfillment by having him revert to human, and he's he no longer has those powers, and he's grateful. I thought it was a lesson about having power. I thought it was a very strong scene. I liked it much better than how they handled it in the cartoon. But
I agree. I actually do agree. I mean, there is what was the line? It's like power corrupts, or those who want power will always wish for more power, something like that.
Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Well, that's the standard bit of dialogue we've been fed. It's largely true. I mean, I'm not complaining about the wisdom of it.
Regardless, it was a nice addition to throw that in. I kind of liked, he was like, since you, as you were saying, since he was basically looking at Aladdin going, since you clearly don't know what you want, let me give you a little advice before you totally screw yourself over. As I'm sure I'm willing to bet that there would have been a scene if he had asked about his past masters. Will Smith's genie would have been like, okay, screwed himself, screwed herself, screwed himself. Just this massive list of how everyone is just totally screwed up with their three wishes.
Have you ever seen the horror movie? I believe it's called Jinn.
I've seen Wishmaster, but not Jinn.
It's the same basic concept where you get a genie and the genie will grant you three wishes, but because it's a horror movie, there's always like a guy in jail stumbles across it and wishes to be out of jail. The entity responds by throwing him through the bars of his cell and turning him into hamburger meat. Well, you're out of jail. And I imagine that Will Smith's genie in his day, has probably done a few of those. Like, okay, you gave me enough gray area, and I don't like you, so.
Yeah, I mean, there is a great line. It's like, there's a lot of gray area in that, and they did use that. In all fairness, they did use that line very well.
and again, they played it off at the end when he goes, "There's a lot of gray area in strongest being in the universe." Okay, I can work with this.
All right. If there's nothing else, then the money, yeah?
I think, was there anything else I wanted to touch on? Oh, very briefly, and I swear, very briefly. I think one of the things we've now learned about these movies is that the director is very, very critical to their success. You need someone who can work within the studio framework in the sense that they can take notes, they know what boundaries to play within. You also need a director whose sensibilities line up with the material you're presenting. And Guy Ritchie doing Aladdin makes a lot of sense, and his directorial flares add to the story rather than detract from it, which is something we have seen in other instances of these movies. So credit to Guy Ritchie. Appropriate pairing of material and director.
So I think we all agree thumbs in the middle, yeah?
Yeah.
Leaning down, but in the middle.
I think when I walked out, I said, this is definitely one of the best of the Disney live-action adaptations, but that's such a frickin' low hurdle.
All right, let's talk about the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right, this thing, as I said before, had a budget of about $190 million. It's currently, as of this recording, sitting at $255 million. Obviously, it won its weekend. Who thought this wasn't going to beat fucking John Wick? Jesus Christ. So
Totally different audiences.
yeah.
Even though John Wick was by far the better movie, I'm sure.
No comment.
What? I didn't listen to last week's show. Sorry.
So yeah, Aladdin.
You should. It's not just to shamelessly shell our product here, but Mark and I had a halfway decent discussion about the franchise in general.
So weirdly, Dumbo jumped up from 18 to 11.
Did
people
I'm
just
guessing,
do like double features on this?
Possibly. I also wouldn't be surprised if Dumbo, despite it being out here for a few months, might have finally got into a few places with much heavier censorship screening laws.
Anyway, Aladdin debuted at number 1. John Wick fell from 1 to 2. Avengers 2 to 3. Avengers is about $100 million away from finally beating Avatar, people. Let's all go out and see Avengers this weekend, okay?
Yeah, please.
Let's get this
Final
done.
Desperately.
Okay, if you do nothing else this weekend, for God and country, go see Avengers Endgame. Even if you've seen it 3 times, see it a 4th. Pokemon, or just buy a ticket. I don't care if you go or not.
You shameless capitalist, you.
Pokemon Detective Pikachu fell from 3 to 4, and has been greenlit for a sequel, by the way. Just as an
That
aside,
I will also not see.
apparently there's been a lot of like fan push for a Super Smash Brothers cinematic universe.
You know what?
Oh
Go
my
for
God,
it.
please. Oh, I'm saying please, God, no. I don't want that.
Look, if they can get Sonic not to suck, which I'm not convinced they can, you know what? Again, if they can actually pull it off, because I've seen some of those, like the fake Avengers, the MCU phase releases that people have like grafted different video game titles onto.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If you can pull it off, you know what? Shoot your shot. Go for it.
Speaking of shoot your shot, Brightburn, the evil Superman movie, debuted at number 5.
Yeah. I mean, that's got a smaller budget, so it might be okay, but that's not good.
I actually went to go see that this weekend with my friends. I loved it, and I am praying no sequels. You know, the ending actually did open the door for potential sequels, or I guess spin-offs would be the appropriate term. But frankly, I want this to stay just the way it is. Like, please, don't go the sinister route. You actually have something really good here. Keep it contained.
Booksmart, the evil Superman movie. Just kidding. The book, as they're calling it, Superbad with Goyles. Debuted at number 6. A Dog's Journey fell from 4 to 7. The Hustle fell from 5 to 8. Intruder 6 to 9. Long Shot 7 to 10. Dumbo 18 rose to 11. The Sun is also a star, is also a movie, 8 to 12. Palms, for those of you who like movies for old people, 9 to 13. Ugly Dolls. My son saw Ugly Dolls with my wife because he did not want to see Aladdin.
Mark,
How about that?
what if you have failed your son miserably? If he
I
had
didn't
any
take him.
if he had any interest at all in that movie.
In his defense, what he really wanted to do was go to Dave & Buster's. But my wife decided that they were going to do their son-mother date to the movies, and she was like, I'm going to take him to go see Ugly Dolls. And I was like, okay, I probably shouldn't tell Winfrey. Honestly, that was
And yet, here you are.
And yet, here I am.
Seriously, it's like I can understand needing to see something else if Aladdin is sold out or you don't want to see Aladdin, but going to see Ugly Dolls, that's like saying I can't get on the ride to see this, or I can't get in line to see this roller coaster, so I'm just going to go get kicked in the nuts.
You know, in his defense, he's 5 and thought the movie was just fine.
No, that is not a defense. He's 5. He barely has a brain. You should know better.
We're a 2-parent household, my friend. If we were a single-parent household, I'd have dragged him to see Aladdin against his will. On the other hand, you know what I did buy him for his birthday?
All you're doing is making the case for divorce.
You know, you're not wrong. You know what I bought him for his birthday? I was supposed to get him the Yoshi paper game for the Nintendo Switch, but I decided to get him something he could actually, we could actually do together as a father and son. So I got him boxing gloves and Target mitts.
Good for you.
Yep.
I was going to say you bought him Mortal Kombat, but I wasn't that far off.
No, I got him his own little boxing gloves, his own little starter boxing gloves, and I got mitts, and we were hitting mitts this weekend.
Good for
cool.
you.
Yep, mostly because I got tired of him hitting me. On the other hand, he was jumping onto my shoulder on the couch, and he did it enough times that eventually he got me in the back of the head with a flying knee.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Your kid fights dirty.
You ever well, he wasn't trying to fight. He was just jumping on my shoulder, and, the first 20 times he did it, successfully did it without hurting me, so he had to keep doing it until he got me.
Mark, as per usual, no one knows how to go out on top.
Nope. So, you ever get kneed in the back of the head? Hurts like hell.
It sucks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff back there that's really important to your continued existence.
Anyway, The Biggest Little Farm, 20 to 15. The Curse of La Llorona. La 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 Llorona. Dun 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 dun. La Llorona.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can mark another space on the bingo card because Mark just sang.
That song is a pop culture footnote.
Captain Marvel, 13 to 17. Breakthrough, 11 to 18. The White Crow, 21 to 19. And finally, Shazam dropped 5 places, 15 to 20. And The Church debuted at number 21. So that was I'm not reading any more of these. Oh, by the way, I will say this, as far as what's going on in movies and money. Hellboy performed so badly, they've declared the entire franchise dead. D-E-D, dead.
Absolute shame. That not about that movie, okay? I'm not sticking up for that movie in particular. I don't know why no one has really been able to crack the code around Hellboy, adapting it into a movie, because the source material is so good. There's so much to work with there. And for some reason, and in fairness, if Guillermo del Toro struggled with it a little bit, and he did, then it's not an easy thing to do. But I'm not sure where the disconnect is there.
I think this is one of those things where they're going to kind of like Spawn, where I don't know how well this works as a movie. This probably works better as a series, animated or otherwise.
Probably true.
I would actually like to see Hellboy as a Samurai Jack-esque animated series.
With a what? 17-year gap between seasons 4 and 5?
We don't speak of the stupidity of Cartoon Network for not greenlighting Gendy Tartakovsky's final series when it was appropriate. But I'm not going to shame because that 5th season was amazing. And by the way, gentlemen, I apologize. You're about to get a difference in audio quality. Apparently, my phone is about to die, so I have to take this off headset and put it on speaker. So
Okay.
I apologize.
Hey,
All right,
Mark,
hang on.
your second favorite fighter just won a $24 million settlement.
I know, I saw. I'm so happy for the Soldier of God.
He's seeing like none of that money.
Anyway,
But good on it. Good on him for. I mean that's in all seriousness. I know tainted supplements get thrown around as a kind of crappy excuse. The supplement industry is essentially unregulated, and there's a lot of companies that show up for like 6 months, sell their product, shut down, move to someone else's base, someone else's kitchen, make more stuff, sell it under a slightly different name, rinse and repeat. So I doubt very much Romero actually gets paid relative to this, but for a guy who had to fight USADA to prove his innocence and is now taking these people to court and won successfully. There's a few other fighters I know that have pending lawsuits against other supplement companies for this. You know what? Good for you guys. I mean that in all seriousness.
Maybe someday this shit will get regulated. But until that day, Avengers Endgame is still number one. It's currently at 2 million.
Billion.
Sorry, billion. Fuck me. 2,686,000,000. Again, to beat Avatar, it's got to go past 2.7 billion. So everyone go out and buy a ticket to Endgame. Buy it now. Go ahead.
Further, is that Avatar final number including DVD sales, or is that just theatrical performances?
It's the number it says on Box Office Mojo.
Pretty sure it's just theatrical.
All right. Yes, people, go buy more tickets. James Cameron needs to suck it.
Buy tickets and send it to hungry children in Africa. It'll be fine. It'll all work itself out.
Speaking of James Cameron related hate, there is a trailer reaction for the latest Terminator movie that we have up as a cheap plug.
Yes, there is. Which is the now canon sequel to Terminator 2: Judgment Day, as the rest of the Terminator movies are no longer canon. Terrific.
And like I said during the trailer reaction, and nothing of any value was lost.
I would actually argue that point a little bit.
You would, but we don't have any time because the CPAP's calling. Captain Marvel is number 2. No movement there. No movement in the top 5. It's still the same 5 movies. Avengers, Captain Marvel, The Wandering Oath, How to Train Your Dragon 3, Alita Battle Angel. Shazam is sitting at number 6 with 362 million. Pokemon, number 7 at 358. Dumbo has actually jumped up a little bit. In the number 8 spot at 349, and Aladdin has cracked the top 10 at number 9, and then Us has knocked Glass out of the top 10 finally, and claimed the number 10 spot, though not for long. No one should care about the 7 to 10 slots because there's a lot of bigger movies coming out that are going to just destroy them. And if anyone's wondering, John Wick is currently at. Where's John Wick? Where are you, John Wick? Kill somebody.
Probably 17 to 20. It's very, very profitable, but it's
13.
Not doing a huge number.
Yeah,
it's also pretty recently out. So
it's between the Escape Room and Lego Movie 2. How about that?
It's significantly better than both of those movies.
I agree.
All right, this weekend is Godzilla.
Woo! 2
kind of different audiences. For Godzilla and Aladdin. I think Aladdin continues to make money. Probably, I don't know. I feel like if it had a bigger opening, I might be more comfortable saying this thing's gonna plow towards $1 billion. And I think initially that was my prediction. I don't know if I feel that strongly about it anymore. I'm feeling 500 million.
Yeah, that's probably about right, unless it turns out to have some pretty serious legs. I don't expect it to, mind you, but it did a good number for its opening weekend, but it's not blowing any records away. It's not surging to massive success the way The Lion King is projected to. And
The Lion King is projected to be our third $1 billion baby this year. So that'll be 3 fucking Disney movies in the top 5. 1, 2, and 3, baby.
Godzilla. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's not forget Star Wars. Eventually.
Well, eventually.
Yep.
So Godzilla.
Much as I wish I could forget Star Wars, I think I'd be better off.
So this is a pretty eventful weekend. We've got Godzilla, Ma, and Rocket Man. So none of them are for the kids.
Those are three very different audiences.
Yeah.
It's all three of those movies.
And I was going to say, none of which are for the kids. So I think if you've got kids and you haven't seen Aladdin, maybe those are the people that give it some more legs this weekend. Unless you're me, because I'm taking my kids to go see Godzilla like a proper parent.
Darn right you are.
The following week is Dark Phoenix, which is looking to tank.
Okay, no. Stop. Just 1 minute. We just implored everyone to go see Endgame. I'm going to personally implore you. Do not see Dark Phoenix. Mark will suffer. I will suffer. You don't have to. Please.
Am I doing that with you guys?
You are if you say you are.
Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
No. Oh, God.
I'm now referring to. By the way, I'm now referring to this movie as Dark Write-Off. This is. Look, they invested a lot of money in the Fox deal. I feel like just to avoid taxes on some of this, they just need some of these movies to fucking tank. So Dark Phoenix is a good place to start. It also has a big competitor that weekend. As far as any kind of kids that want to go see Marvel comic book type movies. And that's The Secret Life of Pets 2.
God! I finally saw a proper preview for that ahead of this movie, and God, no, so much of I know.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to see that because my aunt wants to go see it, and she and I go to the movies together all the time.
Yeah.
She really enjoyed the first one. She said it's not groundbreaking, but it's cute. It made her laugh. It made her smile. And I know she's got a big thing for Patton Oswalt, who was taking over for Louis C.K. because the Illumination said we don't want to be involved in that shit.
And then the following week after that is Men in Black and Shaft. Again, two very different audiences, two very different movies. But I think Men in Black definitely does its part to cut into the potential Aladdin audience. And then finally, look, it's a shit movie, but everyone's going to go see it. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, I'm talking about Toy Story 4. Hello, Forky.
Look, kids, Forky just tried to commit suicide.
Okay, look, let's be clear. The Toy Story movies have not been aimed at children since the second one. All right, 3 was very clearly not a kids' movie. Not that kids couldn't enjoy it. But that is not a kid's movie.
Wherever Aladdin lands by by the end of the weekend, June 28th, that's all the money it's pretty much going to make. After that, it's going to be pennies because you've got, right after that, it's Spider-Man on July 2nd. So you have until Spider-Man comes out, then you're done, Aladdin. You're done. Sit down.
The movie that made Mark so excited, he put off his chemotherapy.
CAR-T. Okay.
CAR-T. Sorry.
Yes, CAR-T.
Can I take your treatment for you and not see the movie?
Well, here's the problem. Can you take away my cancer by doing so? Because listen, don't take this the wrong way because I love you like a brother, but I'm perfectly willing to give you my cancer if that makes you feel better.
There are days.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, how about this?
That he'd rather have cancer than go see the second Spider-Man movie.
How about this? How about I go, get a bone marrow sample taken so I don't have to suffer through Jake Gyllenhaal being CGI'd to look like an actual human being instead of the hobbit that he is.
Just remember, if you bow out, then that means that I'm the only one that can help debut Hollywood that week. And you really want to put that much pressure on me?
I might. I might.
All right, folks. The CPAP's calling, so away we go.
CPAP is singing Jigglypuff.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Anthony Lane of New Yorker.
Oh, just stop right there. I don't need anything more than that.
This ass nugget. In short, it's a whole old world. He got paid by the New Yorker to write that.
Wow. A small world reference when talking about a Disney movie. I'm sure that's never been done before. Aren't you just at the forefront of intellectual thought, you blithering jackass?
That's not a small world. That's a reference to the big musical or the big romantic number from Aladdin.
Whatever.
What if you're going to insult the guy?
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. Okay, no. I know. Okay, here's my excuse for that. Their rendition of A Whole New World is so utterly forgettable in this movie. From both a lyrical, musical, and visual perspective, I forgot they included it.
I have to admit, that is something that actually did piss me off. I mean, I understand that in the first one they can't have, or in this remake, they can't have them going as far as they did in the animated one, but at the same time, it's like, what whole new world? You basically went like maybe a mile outside Agrabah. Maybe.
You took a trip. You like took a ferry around the bay. Like that's what you did. Incidentally, when he says that he banishes Aladdin to the ends of the earth, I have the same gripe with the first one. Incidentally enough, I don't know where that's a small ass world. If he can get back there by flying carpet. Before hypothermia kicks in, with the wind chill of being on a flying carpet.
They used. I can explain it to you. They used warp technology. Matthew Lacona, San Diego Reader. There are efforts made, whether through good faith or just market savvy, to update Princess Jasmine into a people's champion who might prefer ruling to romance. Enough to make you wish that Disney people had gone whole hog and just called it Jasmine. Ugh.
No one wants that. You
Not
moron.
really.
Again, put your pants down. No, pull your pants up. No one wants to see your virtue. Stop it.
Peter Rauner of Christian Science Monitor.
Oh, shit.
I say this as a Christian. If that's your publication, I have concerns.
Smith understandably didn't want to compete with Williams, but as the big blue top-knotted genie, he's uncharacteristically bland. Even the magic carpet in this movie looks bummed out.
I think that's I think that's less to do with Smith and more to do with the whole movie, just kind of being meh, a giant capital MEH.
How does the carpet look bummed? Okay. Seriously, I'll admit that the magic carpet's actually one of my all-time favorite characters from the original Aladdin. I love how much personality they gave to a silent character with absolutely no facial features. That's brilliance in animation right there.
True.
But this one, it's like the carpet looked bummed out. The carpet didn't look bummed out because the carpet didn't have anywhere near the same character as the original carpet. So
yeah, the carpet didn't really have a whole lot to do.
They could. Never mind. I don't want to get into it.
Annie Bundle of NBC News Think.
Oh, God. You work for an NBC subsidiary. You must suck.
The rest of the movie feels like, at best, a pale imitation of the original cartoon, and at worst, embarrassingly bad.
It's kind of a pale imitation because it's a live-action remake of a beloved classic that's somewhat in the description that's inherent to what they're doing. That's not really a criticism. It's like saying that your comedy didn't have enough heart. Actually, I've made that argument. That's like saying that your comedy didn't have enough explosions. Like it's not a fair criticism to levy. Moreover, I don't think this movie ever strays into embarrassingly bad. I saw Pete's Dragon, lady.
So I wanted to read this first one. It's actually a fresh review because it too is really stupid. But this one's so bad that I don't even care about the first one anymore. Jay Dasgupta, Geeks of Color.
Okay, once again, why is it with this movie? For God's sake, no one cares about your politics, your philosophy, or how woke you are. Shut up. Talk about the movie.
You're gonna love this.
I'm gonna find this guy and burn his house down.
Jesus, mercy. I get that Disney intends to target the American audience first. Get ready for it. But in the days where the global box office generates more revenue, why can't there be a little more care and research devoted to getting a few cultural notes right? You mean like Ishtar?
Cultural notes? What? Okay,
Okay, just I need a minute to stop the aneurysm from rupturing. Just hold on 1 second.
They went out of their way to point out, with the exception of Will Smith, everyone in the main cast is of Middle Eastern or Indian descent. The guy who plays Aladdin is half Egyptian. The girl who plays Jasmine, I think her parents or grandparents are Indian. What other it's like, I'm sorry that the fantasy storyline based off of 1001 Arabian Nights, maybe took a few liberties.
Didn't depict Saudi Arabia, in whatever year this is, accurately? Is that really what we wanted for this?
Pretty sure that if they did that, then that whole scene in the original where Jasmine nearly gets her hand cut off for stealing the apple, yeah, pretty sure we'd have seen that and more in this.
Yeah, okay. Moron. Let's start with Disney cartoon adaptation. How about we just start with that reality? And immediately, just off the bat, that's the premise. This is premise one. Everything else flows from this. This is the unassailable beginning. This is the genesis of everything with this movie. Is this reality. And you want a ton of cultural realism. You really want to display... You don't want realistic. You want to be pandered to. Moreover, again, fantasy. You're the type of person who would watch... God, what is it? Crap, what's that fantasy movie?
Labyrinth.
Which one?
The Dark Crystal.
Lord
Iron
of the
Giant. Lord of the Rings. James of the Giant Peach.
Pure fantasy, like Otherworld fantasy.
Boogie Nights.
Yeah, the world where Mark Wahlberg actually has sex. God, I can't remember, but there is a again, this is a fantasy movie, and I can't for the life of me remember.
The Never-Ending Story.
Stardust.
No. It might be Stardust, actually. Okay, you're the moron who watches Stardust and complains that the British accents in the fantasy world are not realistic, despite Mark Strong actually being the guy speaking. You do not understand...
Are you thinking of Willow?
No.
Hang on, I'm looking up what fantasy movie Mark Strong was in. Hang on.
No, Mark Strong was in Stardust.
He was?
Yeah. He's the brother. He's Septimus.
Yeah. I hate to say it, I'm a big fan of Neil Gaiman's work, but I think I pushed most of that movie out of my brain.
I actually enjoy that relative to the graphic novel. It's a complete tonal, like 180 from the graphic novel, but I kind of dig it.
Are you thinking of Legend?
No, don't. I'll find it. I'll find it later. Don't worry about it. Here's the point. In this
Troll?
fantasy, stop it.
Ice Pirates?
Within this
The
fantasy,
Last Starfighter?
Mark,
this-
go to the corner!
within this fantasy movie, there's a race that uses the rough equivalent of a German accent in our world. But it's not a very good German accent. It's also not meant to be because they're not adapting from German. They're adapting from a language that doesn't actually exist. Agrabah's not a place, you moron. Just stop.
It's worth pointing out that the Agrabah in the Aladdin cartoon looked more like a Vegas casino than it did a historical palace.
Truth. But no, they weren't, cutting off people's hands for thievery, or hanging people in the streets, or... You know, I do kind of wonder if there wasn't somewhere in the original discussion of how do we change Jafar that made him just like a militant Muslim, and they just went, we can't do that. Like, he actually is, following the ideology of conquer, convert or die, build the empire, and they just went, you know what, we'll get reamed by this, so let's just make Jasmine shrill, and he used to be poor.
All right, moving on. Kiko Martinez of the San Antonio Current. With the exception of the magnificent A Whole New World sequence where their title character Aladdin and Princess Jasmine ride a magic carpet across the fictional city of Agrabah, Disney's Aladdin is a CGI-heavy bore.
Yeah, you actually single out as good probably the most uninteresting, visually muddied bit of CGI in the entire movie. Congratulations. You arrived at a proper conclusion, but you took so many wrong turns to get there, it's not even funny.
How's your aneurysm doing? Because I'm about to make it burst.
All right, go for it.
Hold on. Do I need to go back down into the basement to, get away from the explosion from this?
You might want to have a pee pad down for Eddie.
Roxana Haddadi of Pajamas, Hossafef Incorporated. What a frustration. Though that in the 27 years from when the animated version of Aladdin was a cultural phenomenon, Disney...
In fairness, it was.
Disney still can't figure out a way to remove the Orientalism.
I'm sorry, what?
They can't figure out a way to remove the Orientalism.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, I didn't think that was a word we were allowed to use anymore. Let's have a brief... Okay, why has geography failed humanity? Like, how do we not... Okay, and let me preface this, okay? I am not under the impression that there's a severe Oriental influence in the Middle East. I might be wrong. There might be some deep-rooted influence from, mainland China that has taken cultural hold throughout the Arabian Peninsula. I could be grossly mistaken here. But I don't think that I am. That's the wrong word. You were not trying to use that word because there's not a significant amount of Oriental influence.
No, that would be Mulan.
Yeah. Like, okay, no, I know what happened. You have one stock review for all movies like this, and you just copy-pasted the wrong part. Oriental, unless you're actually trying to say general racial, stereotypes or painting in broad strokes, in which case Orientalism is a very specific subset of that is wildly misused here. The Orient is a specific geographic region that is separated from the Middle East by an entire subcontinent and the largest mountain range on Earth above sea level.
Again, I was under the impression that we weren't allowed to use that word anymore.
You can call a carpet Oriental. You can't call your buddy Sam Oriental. See, that's how that works. I mean,
look, and this I have no problem with you refer to a region of the world as the Orient. There's a region of the world that has historically been referred to as such. Calling people from that region Oriental is overly broad, and again, while it might be accurate in the most technical of phrases, it's deeply misleading considering how often that was applied only to about 3 different nationalities, all of which get angry if you refer to them as that because they're not... Look, we are not Jim Ross. We don't get to call all Japanese Chinese.
Oh, God. And for more on that, check out Jesse and I reviewing AEW, as I often refer to Jim Ross as Old Man Ross with them Chinese Chinamen.
For whatever else it's worth, both Larry Zonka and Jeremy Lambert agreed with you, saying that was the dumbest thing.
Donald Clark, Irish Times. A weird mess of vaguely woke filmmaking and cultural appropriation on the DeMille scale.
No. I mean, I get what he's trying to say, and I don't think the point is entirely inaccurate. But again, this gets brought up all the time. That what constitutes cultural appropriation and what doesn't? I mean this in all seriousness. What is it? Is it because it's being used for profit? Is it because it's being used for profit by a Western-based country or company? Is it because it's being used for profit in a mass, in some kind of broad globalist appeal? Is it only cultural appropriation if it's done by an American-based company? Is it only cultural appropriation if it's done by people in a specific geographic location? Is it cultural appropriation if they're represented fairly or positively or only negatively? You throw that word around, that concept, that conjunction of words, like it still means something in 2019 when the fundamental premise of the argument has been so woefully diluted with overuse and misapplication as to render it absolutely meaningless.
Speaking of absolutely meaningless, Sarah Knight Adamson, Sarah's Backstage Pass.
God.
We're almost done with this because I gotta get to bed. Guy Ritchie's Aladdin remake introduces kids to new methods to get their way by torturing Jasmine's dad, the Sultan. This will never be okay in a children's movie.
Wow.
As opposed to what they did in the first Aladdin movie?
Where he literally tries to get the genie to... Where he literally tries to brainwash her. Like, what do you think... Okay, you moron. What do you think a children's movie is? I need... Like, there's got to be some significant linguistic difference here. Because I remember kids' movies. Especially when I was a kid.
Furthermore, what's the argument? Torturing someone's father to get them to do what you want is bad. Yeah.
That's why the bad guy did it. It's not presented as a good thing. Do you want another My Little Pony the movie? Is that what you're after?
Well, friendship is magic, sir.
Oh, shut up.
Hey, I like My Little Pony.
Okay. Look, again, the kids' movies are not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, I don't know where this notion came from, that children should never be exposed to adversity or darkness. You don't want to be stupid about it. But, yeah, Jafar's a bad guy. Bad guys do bad things. He's not a bad guy because he called you a name. He's a bad guy because he wants to instigate war, expand territory, and take power for himself when he has neither earned it nor is overthrowing someone. I mean, there's not even the basest moral argument that, well, he's not as bad as the guy he's overthrowing. No! The Sultan's a good guy! There's a reason bad guys do bad things in kids' movies, so that they learn to understand the stakes involved and why you must and why you stand up to them. You also don't have the good guys doing bad things. Any child that looks at Jafar as a role model has serious problems long before they ever set foot into that theater.
Yes, thankfully my daughter picked up that Jafar was the bad guy. Matt Brunson of Creative Loafing, this fuckface.
God.
By providing the former Fresh Prince with fresh material, Smith is able to escape the inevitable comparison to Robin Williams. But if the film works magic with the genie, it fails miserably with Jafar.
I mean, yeah, we actually did talk about that a little bit. Yeah, Jafar is a massive fail in this movie. The genie is passive.
Eric D. Snyder of Crooked Marquee, again, this asshole, improves on the original in no way whatsoever, and is only palatable if you've never seen the other one.
Again, isn't that pretty much like commonplace with the live-action adaptations?
Yeah, in a lot of respects.
Again, Beauty and the Beast fleshed out some of the characters more, made Gaston more of a character and less of a caricature.
They also that one also gave appropriate stakes to the reality of the plight of the curse, rather than just kind of the general moping that went into the animated version. I mean, I've remarked at the time that I think there's a good degree of poor storytelling, just in the fact that in every sequel to Beauty and the Beast, they revert everyone to the Beast and the cutlery, because they were cuter that way, and that one actually gave that reality some narrative stakes.
I'm going to read these last two, and the very last one I'm going to read is really just the humdinger and a great way to end this bit. But I got to read Chris Stuckman first, because we hate you, Chris Stuckman. We hate you.
You self-employed bastard.
Hey, I like Chris Stuckman.
No, we hates him.
Go away. You're uninvited. Like that is the bridge too far.
We hates is you, Chris Stuckman. We hates is you. But Alexis likes you, so that's fine. And the Giants...
Because as Meatloaf famously said, 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
There you go. When the giant CGI Will Smith is bouncing around, it doesn't work. But when he plays himself, he's very charming. The best part of the movie. The actors are trying to break free, but some of the dialogue and performances are cringeworthy.
I mean, he's not wrong.
All right, lastly, you guys are going to love this one, okay? I'm going to say this, and then I'm just going to put my earphones down while Robert screams at the moon. And then I'll come back.
Okay. You've set me up. You've now elevated this one to pretty significant standards. We've had some bad ones in the past.
Akhil Aurora of Gadgets 360. Unfortunately, Aladdin doesn't make any meaningful effort to depict the Middle Eastern way of life. Good night, everybody.
I almost officially ducking for cover.
I almost don't have the energy for this because I already yelled about this. Okay, let's start with this. Again, not a real place. The city is not real. You'd think the flying carpet and the genie that comes out of the lamp might have clued some people into we're not going for realism here. But apparently that's too subtle a nod for this person. What exactly do you think the Middle Eastern way of life was like at the time period that's being described within this movie? I genuinely mean this. What do you think it was like? Go ahead. Please enlighten me as to your in-depth knowledge. And you know what? If this person's actually has a doctorate in Middle Eastern studies from a reputable university and just can't get a job doing anything because that's a largely useless degree, and is writing movie reviews to pay the bills, I will take the egg on my face for this. All right, I absolutely will. What do you think it was like? Because depictions of tribal warfare, the raiding Bedouins, the constant clashes between the religious Muslims and the Arabs, we use those interchangeably nowadays. They are not technically interchangeable. Different people. One's a religion, one's an ethnicity. I mean, do you want to go into the details about the different empires and how their horrible rules were established, the murder and the mayhem and the disease and the poverty that's endemic to all, and this is not a shot at this area in particular, any place on Earth, any human civilization, if you try to tell an accurate story about their way of life during the time frame depicted here, it's death in childbirth and a lot of death from measles, you anti-vaxxing morons.
Can Eddie and I come out now? Is it safe?
Accuracy. I want my children's Disney movie to just depict the realism of starvation and cholera and the Black Plague. What's the matter with you?
That's funny. Okay, I think we've beat this horse to death.
Oh,
they say.
wait, I have one very small thing about the movie, just as a brief aside. They actually cut my favorite line from the original movie, and I was sad about it.
Which was?
After Jasmine and her father have a bit of a fight, and she storms off because she doesn't want to be forced to marry anyone. And he just kind of laments, "Oh, I don't know what's going on. Her mother wasn't nearly this picky."
Oh, I love that.
I
didn't get that joke when I was a kid. That was a joke for the adults, and I loved it.
It is genuinely my favorite line from that movie, as just an insight into the character's kind of world-weary self-awareness. And just, teenage daughters. In the next few years, Mark will understand that.
Sure. All right, folks. Next week on the old calendar, it's Godzilla week all week long. We're going to kick things off, though. On June 1st, we've got myself, Robert Winfrey, and Pat Mullen will be doing alternate commentary for Anthony Joshua versus Andrew Ruiz Jr. on DAZN. Myself, Jesse Starcher, and Chris Bailey, and maybe the other Chris, the Four Podsman. I don't know. We'll see.
You could have another Chris.
There's lots of Chris's. We'll be reviewing NXT TakeOver, wherein I will challenge Jesse to explain to me how AEW's Double or Nothing was better than any NXT special, including the one on June 1st. Then we've got...
there might actually be at least one I think you could make the argument for, but that'd be stretching it.
Yeah. On Monday, we've got 97 people on source material talking Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters. We'll have a Damn You Hollywood review for Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Darn right we will. All hail the King, baby.
We'll be reviewing the new
King
Legion
Kong
album.
can suck it. There is one king of monsters, and he's a fire-breathing atomic lizard.
That is not fire. That is radiation.
I know, but come on.
No, seriously, get it right.
And then we'll have an on-trial for the 1998 Godzilla. And then
there is no defending the 1998 Godzilla.
Oh, there's plenty of defenses for it.
Robert, you don't know what I'm in for that week.
And at some point that week, we're going to throw up a commentary. Myself and Alexis Hena will sit down and we'll watch Godzilla 1998, and we'll talk about it.
Are you just going to riff tracks it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I can't expect you will do anything other than just laugh hysterically throughout the entire movie. It's so bad.
I intend to provide in-depth analysis.
No,
I intend to make fun of Matthew Broderick.
Good. Look, I take it back. There are two things about that movie you can praise. Only two.
No.
You can praise Hank Azaria and his Brooklyn accent. And you can praise Harry Shearer for playing Kent Brockman in real life.
Whoa, CPAP's calling me. Whoa.
Yes.
The following week, it's everything Dark Phoenix. We've got the Dark Phoenix saga on source material, and we'll review the last of the Fox X-Men movies, Dark Phoenix, until Gambit comes out.
Free at last. Praise God Almighty, we are free at last. Also, Gambit is never coming out. Get over it. Disney announced that they shot it in the head. I want a picture of Mickey Mouse shooting Remy LeBeau in the head with an AK-47. Because thank you.
Do not shoot Remy LeBeau. Shoot Channing Tatum.
That too. I want to shoot Channing Tatum.
Hey, Wednesday, June 12th, Robert, in case you're interested. Oakley dokley, howdly toodly.
Oh, you must present me with Ned Flanders medal again.
Yes.
Wednesday?
The June 12th.
Hang on, I need a calendar. Give me a second.
You do that. I'm going to keep going. And then we'll have an on-trial for X-Men 3 The Last Stand on June 13th.
Yeah, that's a Wednesday I'll be in. And there is no defending X-Men The Last Stand.
Sure there is.
No, there really isn't.
Andrew Graham will be making his first appearance on source material with Gotham Central Book 1. We'll be doing a Damn You Hollywood for Men in Black International, and then we'll be reviewing the new Rammstein. And then finally, all us nerds are getting together to talk about how the rest of you are terrible. It'll be the Screaming Boy podcast. We're going to be talking toxic fandoms. And then...
if you wanted to extend that podcast even further, then what you're going to have Feel free to mention how sports fans everywhere are the scum of the earth.
Well, he'll be talking Heroes in Crisis because death threats to Tom King, and then we'll be reviewing Toy Story 4.
That movie is going. Toy Story 3 killed me inside in a very good way. Toy Story 4 is going to kill me inside in a bad way.
We'll be reviewing the new Amon Amoth Berserker on June 26th. Myself and Jesse will be reviewing the new Black Mirror Season 5 on June 27th. And then finally, Chris Bailey. No Chris Bailey here. We'll be looking at Jessica Jones Volume 2 by Brian Michael Bendis, The Secrets of Maria Hill on Source Material. And then myself and Robert will be reviewing the last of the red-hot Netflix Marvel series, Jessica Jones Season 3. And then on July...
For the record, I have stated this publicly to Mark. I'm going to say it right here. If Season 3 is worse than Season 2, I'm tapping out halfway through. I will not put myself through that.
And finally, July 3rd, we'll be reviewing the new Upon a Burning Body on the Metal Hammer of Doom. All right, that's my plugs. Alexis, go sell some stuff.
All right, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We just wrapped up. Oh no, this isn't getting delayed. No, we still have a few more days left on our Pick Spring sale.
Because time travel.
I hate to say it, some of these shows get delayed a little bit, so I tend to forget, wait, when's this shit coming out? No. Our Honeysuckle Roses big spring sale is going on for a few more days. It is ending May 31st. That's 15% off everything in our stores on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. Cufflinks, necklaces, barrettes, hairpins, charm bracelets, you name it, we got it, all 15% off. You can find us also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Honeysuckle Rose Creations.
Tell people about that MMA thing, Robert.
I don't know that I want to.
Okay, let's not. Good night, everybody. Ah, damn it.
Robert, did you just lose all of your energy getting off the soapbox?
No, Mark reminded me about the card on Saturday, and the top 3 fights are all light heavyweight fights, and I died inside a little bit. This card is not good. The UFC's back in Sweden, so of course Alexander Gustafsson headlines because...
Hey, wait. It's where?
I'm not doing your bit, Mark.
Where is it?
I'm not doing
your bit. I didn't hear
bit.
you. Tell me where, what country
you heard
it's in.
me.
Quit, Robert.
You heard me. Knock it off.
Oh, it's in Sweden. IKEA's from Sweden. I like meatballs.
Damn you so much. The main event is Alexander Gustafsson versus Anthony Smith in a battle of lanky white dudes who got their asses kicked by John Jones. The co-main event is Ilir Latifi and Volkan Oezdemir in a battle of short light heavyweights who theoretically have power, but both kind of suck. The next fight down is Jimmy Manawa, desperately trying to right his career, against Alexander Rakic, who might be the only light heavyweight prospect I have any interest in at all. Again, this is not a good card. If you want a full preview, such as it is, you can listen to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. I was by myself on Sunday. Jeff was in transit from Vegas back to his home after being live in person for AEW's Double or Nothing. So it's just me as I talk about that. The UFC released a bunch of fighters, including Elias Theodorou, Justin Willis, Eric Shelton, and Wilson Hayes, because they're getting rid of flyweight, even though they won't admit it. So you can listen to all of that this Saturday at some time early in the not early morning, but before noon, I think. I'll be covering UFC Fight Night 153, again, Gustafsson and Smith, Oezdemir Latifi, Manawa Rakic. I hate this card so much. I just look at it and I die. I hate this card. It's so bad. But I'll be suffering, so stop by the MMA Zone of 411 Mania and feel free to laugh at my pain.
So I was going to watch the Henry Cejudo pay-per-view on June 8th, but I think I have to take my kids to the drive-in to see The Secret Life of Pets instead.
You will be missing out.
Yeah.
because I guarantee you, however long Cerrone versus Ferguson lasts is going to be better than The Secret Life of Pets.
It depends. I mean, I might get home in time for 10 o'clock. I mean, it is, an animated movie that'll probably begin around 7:38. So, I mean, maybe. But my wife also said, well, you already ordered your one pay-per-view for the month, so you can't order two. So I got to figure out how to sneak this past her.
Mark, I hate to be the bearer of this news yet again. You have the internet.
I don't steal, sir. Stealing is wrong.
Yeah, you're protesting a little bit too much.
Stealing is wrong, sir. I will not judge you, but I will stand before Christ at the gates of heaven at being pure of soul.
I thought you Jews didn't believe in the divinity of Christ.
I don't know what I am anymore.
None of us do.
I just know I like meatballs. Go, please finish this bit.
So anyway, this coming Sunday, Mark already mentioned I'll be theoretically providing some alternative commentary for Anthony Joshua's fight. I like Joshua. He's the best heavyweight in the world, and good for him.
Second only to Deontay Wilder.
Stop it. We did an entire podcast about how bad Deontay Wilder is, and you still have the nerve to trot that out.
Finish.
Speaking of that podcast I just referenced, Mark, Pat, and I did some alternate commentary over Deontay Wilder's latest fight, and I use heavy air quotes around that. It was so bad and so short, we wound up talking about two better heavyweight fights, so feel free to listen to that. Sunday, I'll have on the 411 Ground and Pound radio show, Jeff will be back in theory. We'll have a review of Fight Night 153, and we'll be previewing UFC 238. I'm living for this card. Like, this card is sustaining my existence. Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai will be a fun squash match. Tony Ferguson versus Donald Cerrone, the sweet, sweet boogeyman on cowboy violence.
Wait, you said it wrong. You said it's Shevchenko versus some dumb bitch, is what I believe is what you called it.
I'm not going to repeat what I said. I'm not proud of what I said last time. I was tired, and I don't like Jessica Ai. What do you want me to say? And for the record, what I said was, and I quote myself, some bitch from Ohio.
That might be the greatest thing you've ever said.
Also on that card, Jimmy Rivera will fight Peter Yan, and oh, yes. Those two fights, Rivera Yan into Ferguson Cerrone, just hooked that into my veins. Oh, God. So you can tune in for that. Again, that we'll be previewing that, and then that following Saturday I'll be covering that because I don't get weekends off anymore for like the rest of the year. I seriously think the UFC has an event every Saturday for the rest of the year. I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure. So yay me. My bank account is grateful. That's the worst joke I make, I know.
All right.
So you can tune in for that. Again, next week we'll be here where I will talk about how great Godzilla King of the Monsters is, and Mark will proceed to dump all over it because that's kind of the pattern here.
We'll see. I enjoy a good monster match no matter whatever monsters are in it. So, all right. With that elongated bit for no good reason, thank Alexis Hana for joining us once again. This has been Damn You Hollywood. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.375%. APR 4.65%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 2.13% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.